Yo, it's the 1409 podcast. I go by the name of KT.
It's your boy GualaMeetsWorld.
Welcome to episode 87. We have a special guest out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the CEO of We Management Service, the two-time author of Credit is King and full-time CEO of The Shit They Don't Tell You. Got Mr. Will Roundtree in here. How's it going, sir?
Oh, man, everything is good, fellas. How y'all doing?
All good, all good.
Yo.
Mm-hmm. How you living?
Oh, man, I'm doing good, man. Just living my best life, as they like to say it, you know. So even if I was to complain, would nobody listen anyway? So definitely.
Thanks.
Already. All right, we got the intro out the way. We're gonna get into that a little more, but before we go any further, let's get to the shots. So we take a shot every episode. I didn't bring my shot glass in here, so I gotta do it the ghetto way, the ratchet way. But
As long as you get the shot in.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it in.
Hey, Mr. Roundtree, what you want to make this toast to?
Man, this toast is to you fellas' success. Got a chance to check you guys out, so definitely want to toast to you guys and just prosperity and moving forward. Just so happens we're doing this podcast in the middle of Black History Month, so definitely toast to Black excellence as well. So definitely toast to Black excellence.
Yes, sir. Let's get to it. Yeah, man. All right. We got the trivia out the way. We got the shot out the way, so we're going to do a little trivia. You from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, correct?
Yeah, I was born in Milwaukee, but I currently live in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Right.
Yes.
All right, so my trivia is, you don't have to answer this because I'm sure you know the answer, but anybody in the audience want to answer this? What's the capital of Wisconsin? Anybody? Capital of Wisconsin. Let's take a wild guess.
We'll see if somebody get it. I'll give you guys a clue. They actually, that's where the college football team plays. They actually have a really good college football team.
Mm-hmm. All right, and I can shy up in here. If y'all in here, drop the city, the capital city of Wisconsin. Take your guess. If you don't know, just drop 1409 in the comments. The capital is 1409. All right, so the capital of Wisconsin is Madison. Mm-hmm. Okay, Monique Freshman got it right when I said it. So yeah.
Interesting fun fact about Madison. They actually, I don't know if they still do it. They used to have a big Halloween party every Halloween. So they go a little. They get turned up. Let me just put it that way. They turn up on Halloween out there every year.
Already. All right, before we go further, let's get into our sponsor. We got Spa Danny as our sponsor from February 1st to February 14th. Get $10 off your 90-minute service at Spa Danny. Make sure you head to SpaDannyExperience.com to get that book if you're in the Florence, South Carolina area. She also travels as well for a small fee.
Yeah, make sure y'all tap in with Spa Danny, man. Book them, massages for Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day coming up, so book your.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
I know I could use one right now.
Yeah, they feel good too, man.
I would book it, but
they feel good. I had one, man. Feel good for real.
Definitely.
Oh man. All right. So Mr. Roundtree, what was it like growing up in Milwaukee?
So Milwaukee it's a city that is not as popular as far as like your more well-known cities. It's about 90 minutes north of Chicago. So often compared to like it being a mini Chicago. The violence was rampant. I grew up in a era where, the drugs, pimping was heavy in Milwaukee, gang culture and all of that. And so growing up, I seen all of that, and, that was what, we saw as our definition of success growing up in the hood, and so actually, when I got to high school, my parents actually sent me to Mississippi to get me out of that because there was a lot going on. I mean, every day it was fights in school. I mean, somebody's always getting, killed, and it's still like that. Like I say, the gang culture was very, very, very heavy in the late 80s and early 90s. The drug gang. And then, of course, like I mentioned, pimping was very popular in the entire Midwest. Matter of fact, for those who are familiar with, pimps like Pimpin' Ken and Bishop Don Juan, like, some of the original players' balls, as they used to call them, used to actually be in the city of Milwaukee. So, Milwaukee is known for a couple things. Also, Milwaukee has the highest incarceration rate per capita in the United States in the zip code of 53206. And it's probably one of the most segregated cities in the United States. When people hear Milwaukee, especially when I moved to Vegas, when I would tell people I was from Milwaukee, the first thing they would say is like, "Is black people there?" And Milwaukee is a predominantly black city. The state of Wisconsin is not racially mixed, but the city of Milwaukee is primarily blacks, and other ethnicities, and it's extremely segregated. So you can only imagine that being amongst all of that, can definitely shape you and have you having a certain mindset. Because when I first left Milwaukee and went to Mississippi, like, my mindset was a little different. You used to hearing gunshots, used to fighting on the way to school. Like, you really just never knew what, you were going to get into. And I mean, when I was often told by the time I was 21, I'd be dead or in jail. And so, it was just one of those environments. But I definitely say it was something that it made you tough, not only just physically, but also mentally. Because I often say, being an entrepreneur, the most difficult thing is the mental toughness. So I definitely, always try to shout out and give back to my city. I go back and do a lot of free events. And so to answer your question, it's a city that it's not for the faint of hearts. Let me put it like that.
Sure. So how do you feel like the environment you were raised in influenced who you are today?
Like I said, mentally, it gave me a toughness that, like the school of hard knocks, I often call it, so being amongst all of that, you have to have, a mental toughness. It gives you a certain level of discernment, knowing who to trust, who to deal with, it gives you a certain level of assertiveness. And it also just gives you a level of common sense. I think that we take common sense for granted. When and I'm sure you guys, have dealt with individuals, you're like, okay, that wasn't the smartest thing to do, but we have to assume everybody doesn't know what we think they know. And as my grandmother used to say, common sense is not always that common. And so I think, it just kind of shaped and molded me in areas that are intangible that you can't learn from school or from your parents. Like, it's just something that you kind of go through and you pick up, just having that kind of intuition. And so I often say, the street intuition is something that definitely shapes and helps you, especially as you get in your adult life and as you're navigating through business, because business is a cutthroat world, or it definitely could be cutthroat. Let me put it like that.
For sure. So what really influenced your move to Vegas back in 2005?
Man, a couple things. For one, I hated the snow. The weather. I think they're battling like 16 inches of snow right now. I'm not sure, but the real influence really came. So in 2003, the company I was working for, and I thought I was going to retire there, actually ended up shutting down. So here I am, about 24 years old, lost my job. I had been there about 8 years, was making what they call good money at that time. And, I had dropped out of college, lost, the job closed down. So I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I actually had to move back in with my parents at 24. And that does something to your pride. And I remember, having to go to this networking event. And I asked my father at the time to borrow $50. And I just kind of had a reflection. I'm like, I have to do something different with my life. And so I was fortunate enough to get introduced into entrepreneurship through network marketing. And so we were building an organization in other states. And so my mentor at the time actually said, Will, would you consider going to Las Vegas to kind of head up our team that we're building out there? Because, at the time I was single, no kids, the whole nine. And so took a leap of faith. I didn't have any money, so he actually loaned me $500. I bought a one-way ticket and I had a garbage bag full of clothes. I didn't even have a suitcase. So really was just looking for something different and to get into a new environment and to be able to have a fresh, clean slate, as I like to call it. But more importantly, really just to get out of that environment, because I was in a really dark place mentally, during that time, because essentially I had lost everything. So those are some of the things that really shaped and helped to propel me to say, you know what, I'm just going to make this leap of faith. And I bought a one-way ticket and I have not been back since, at least to live. I, of course, go back often to visit, but yeah, I've been in Las Vegas ever since.
So how was the beginning? You know what I'm saying? Like you said, you just taking that leap of faith. How was the beginning processes for adjusting into a new environment?
I got homesick in the beginning because I didn't have any family in Las Vegas, didn't have any friends. I actually had met someone who was in the network marketing company with me, and he let me rent a room out of his home for a few months. And so once, that agreement had expired, I was, trying to find my way. I actually was fortunate enough during that time to purchase a vehicle, which ultimately I ended up having to sleep in for a little while. And but I never felt like I never felt like I lacked anything, because during that time, I always knew what my end goal was. And my level of thinking was just so different, which, I accredit that to getting out of that environment. So that way I can literally just have a clarity and really focus on my mindset, which is one of the things that I learned in network marketing, is that personal development. So I always say that everything happened perfectly for a reason. For me mentally to be prepared for that level of adversity. And so, but yeah, it took a long time to adjust. When I was finally able to get my place on my own, I actually was renting a weekly studio apartment, didn't have any furniture. I used to sleep on the floor on bath towels. I did my grocery shopping at the 99-cent store. So, definitely very humble beginnings. But again, I always knew what the bigger picture was. So I never felt like I lacked anything.
All right. So you mentioned that you worked around credit for a while you were out there. What were some of the takeaways you got from that before you got into like teaching credit and working on your own credit?
Yeah. So it actually kind of inadvertently happened. So one of the things that I learned from a mentor of mine before I even left Milwaukee, he dropped a seed on me that never left. He said, "Will, eventually credit will become the new dollar." Didn't know what he meant by that at the time, but when I got to Las Vegas, I found out what it meant, because everything as an adult you do is tied to credit. Your insurance rates, trying to buy an apartment, you got to put down a hefty deposit. Buying a vehicle, you're going to have high interest rates or need a cosigner. And so that was one facet of it. But then some of the jobs that I had inadvertently, and it wasn't that I was even really trying to look for something in that industry, I was working around credit. So my first job actually was working at a law firm that did credit repair. They ended up losing a huge contract because they did other types of law as well. The credit repair division was probably their smallest division. And so when they lost that contract, they ended up shutting down that location. So I ultimately ended up, losing employment. I actually worked at a collection agency, and I say that that's something that you got to be different to work at a collection agency. Some of the tactics, and if you don't close on any of the sales, you don't make any money. And so I worked there maybe about a month and a half, went to lunch one day and never went back. I just said, you know what, that's not for me. And then just, my own knowledge and wanting to learn more about credit, because I kept seeing how credit played an adverse impact in just my day-to-day living. Like I mentioned, every time I went to go try to rent an apartment, I either got denied or had to put down 3 times the deposit, which, obviously I didn't have. And so, so I just started to get more intrigued about credit. And then when I started learning about Robert Kiyosaki and reading books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and started learning about other people's money, more and more my mind opened up to learning about what is this thing called credit that we haven't been taught. And so that's really, where that came from and just how some of my life's journey kind of directed me into that space.
Where do you feel like the biggest disconnect is about credit education and like just being financially literate?
So some of the biggest disconnect is that we don't have access to the information. I often say that the one thing that separates successful from unsuccessful is information. The one thing that separates the wealthy from the unwealthy is information. Information is the most expensive commodity on this planet. Information is the most expensive commodity on this planet. Let's take school, for example. We go to college for information in hopes to put us in a better position to go after a job or career that we're looking for. And so the biggest disadvantage from a credit standpoint is we weren't taught these things. As I've traveled the country the past 3.5 to 4 years, and I'm going into households and speaking with people in the communities where I come from, there's so many misconceptions about credit. But then, not to get all, deep with you guys here today, but then one day I was just sitting down and I was reflecting a few months ago. I'm like, look, we weren't even allowed to learn how to read 400 years ago. And they often say the power is in the information. Where was the information stored at back in those days? They were in books. So we've been put at a disadvantage because that is something that's still been systemically embedded in us to not value the information because our ancestors didn't have access to being able to read. I remember, just getting a visual watching a movie, Birth of a Nation, the Nat Turner story. Mm-hmm. And I remember it was a scene in there where, just for learning how to read or talking back to, the slave master or whatever, they would get a chisel and a hammer and knock their teeth out. So I can only imagine the fear that our ancestors had when they were caught learning how to read. So to answer your question, King, is really we haven't been taught to value the information of financial literacy, and that's one of the reasons why I actually do what I do, and I really make it my passion and my business to go out here and educate as many people as I can, because once you understand the power of credit, see, we just look at credit from a consumer standpoint, but when you understand the power of it and how a lot of wealthy people have been able to leverage credit to make a lot of money, then that's when I think we will have a different mindset about what credit can do in just financial literacy, period.
For sure. So back to what you said about the collection agency, you mentioned you gotta be like built different to work in there. You want to share like some of the stuff?
Some of the collection. I mean, I don't remember all of them because they was a while back, but just like, you almost are trying to threaten somebody without really threatening them and trying to get them to pay the debt, and I remember they used to give us fake names. I remember my fake name was Mike Quick. And so they gave us fake names because back in the day, people would get the address of the collection agency and they would get mad and they would come to the building and try to harm whoever it was. And so I don't know if that's how it is at all collection agencies, but the one I worked at, they gave all of us fake names. And I remember, not necessarily something that I learned from being in that space, but I remember I saw some people and friends and relatives who I knew that had collections with this company. And so, that was just something that just stuck out. But other than that, it's, I respect the people who work there because obviously that's how they feed their families. But they teach you things that, you got to kind of be a little bit different to do. Because you're trying to get somebody to pay a debt that they probably had no intentions on paying, and so it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me.
Yeah, I noticed that like when sometimes stuff go to collection, they add their little piece on top of that. So like
that's how they make their money because they're buying the debt pennies on a dollar. So in order for them to make their money, they gotta put a little something on top, as we call it back in the hood. Like what I'm saying, they gotta put a little something.
So you had a YouTube video about paid collection. You want to share like with the audience like how you feel about should you pay collection or should you not?
Yeah, so I actually have a YouTube video. It actually went viral. I think it's probably at like billion plus views on there now that says why you shouldn't pay your collection accounts. And so now it is a disclaimer in there. I'm not telling people not to pay their debt, but you shouldn't pay your collection accounts without the proper information. Meaning if you have zombie debt that has been sitting on your credit and has not so much of an impact to your overall score, if you go and pay it without asking for a deletion letter, your score can drop. Or if you do a settlement offer, your score can drop. And so it really is you shouldn't pay the collection agency without first knowing all of the steps and strategies about why you're trying to pay it. Are you going to ask for a deletion letter? And you can dispute it first, because just because you have a collection account doesn't mean they're reporting the information accurately. And per the Fair Credit Reporting Act, any negative information on our credit reports, we have the right to dispute, because if they can't prove the accuracy down to a penny, they have to delete it off the report. I actually had a client who paid down $15,000 of her debt and her score dropped 100+ points. So that's actually what gave me the idea of doing that video.
Yeah, because I know like it could report one way on Experian, and then it could say something different on Equifax or TransUnion. So that's grounds for disputing it right there, correct?
Absolutely. The last date of activity. I mean, there's so many different reasons on why you could dispute a debt. For one, the collection agency, they don't own the debt. So you can force them to say, hey, I need you to send me an original contract, not a copy, not a draft, so there's a multitude of reasonings on how or why you should at least attempt to dispute it first, just for them to report the accuracy of it. And if they can't, they do have to delete it.
Okay. So on the live last week, you mentioned you rented out like some office space and you spent like $20K in renovations, I believe. So what led to that decision for the renovations on the place that you were renting? I believe that's what you said on there.
Yeah. So the full story is I actually had invested in a franchise about 6-7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Went out, found a big office suite. I was able to negotiate what's called a tenant improvement allowance, where the landlord would give me a certain allowance to put towards the renovation. And I often tell people that was a mistake that I made because in that particular industry, and I talk about this to a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners who are looking to go into business, you don't necessarily need a brick and mortar these days. And that was an expense that at that time I regretted, because my expenses for that office at minimum every month was $5,500. And so I did not break even until I made $5,500 every single month. And so, so that's not anything that I would do as of today. I mean, if I had a restaurant or something where I had to have a brick and mortar, or I definitely wouldn't have put that much money into the renovation, especially that new into my career of entrepreneurship. Now, if I did decide to get a building, I would probably just buy it, rent out the other office spaces, and let the other tenants pay for my mortgage on the building. I'm actually looking at purchasing a building in Wisconsin that came across my desk where I'm gonna be able to actually do that. But yeah, I would never do that again. And I always tell people, you don't have to have a big fancy office to start business. And I think, sometimes with business owners or entrepreneurs, we want the look of doing business. We want the look of success, but we don't even have any customers yet. So a lot of times we put ourselves in that hole, and now we're scrambling and operating out of desperation because we know we got a $3,000 mortgage, $3,000 rent every month. So, those are just some of the things that I learned and that I would do differently moving forward.
For sure. So what was your biggest motivation behind like being an educator of credit?
I didn't see a lot of people who looked like me out here teaching this information. When I would go online, I seen people teaching it, but they didn't look like us. And, they came out using big words that a lot of people didn't understand. They wore fancy suits, so it didn't connect. And so I wanted to be able to come out and speak directly to our people and come out, in a t-shirt, some jeans, and I wanted people to feel that I can relate to them, because the thing about credit and money and finances, let's just be honest, that's something a lot of us Black people don't like to talk about. We're scared to talk about money. We're scared to talk about finances. We're scared to talk about debt. We're scared to talk about credit. And so I wanted to make it to where, one, people felt comfortable about it, and two, that it was kind of cool now to show your credit score. Now you go on Instagram, you got, celebrities posting and talking about credit. So it's become more mainstream. It's become more, more sexy as far as, people wanting to learn more about credit. And so, but my passion for it was in the beginning, over 10 years ago, I didn't see a lot of people who could deliver the information to where I would even want to, digest it. And so I wanted to, instead of complaining about the problem, I want to create a solution myself. And so that's what I did.
Hey,
For sure. Shout out to Andy in here in the comments. Andy Tebow. I know y'all.
Andy, what's going on?
Yeah, I know y'all connected. It's a lot of connection around here. Y'all are great people, for real. I just want to throw that out there. Mm-hmm. All right, so motivation was there's not enough education out there. You out there educating people. You have We Management Services.
Yes.
Would you like to talk about that briefly?
Yeah. So essentially, it's a company that I created. Well, a couple of reasons. So my first credit business, I've had probably 5 credit companies that all of them failed. So We Management Services was not my first rodeo. And before I came up with We Management, the company I had before that was called We Credit Pros. And I actually got a cease and desist letter from a company in New Jersey by the name of Credit Pros because they had a portion of that name trademarked. So I actually had to stop using We Credit Pros. And I had invested all this money in websites and logos and all of this stuff. So my book, Full-Time CEO, the shit they don't tell you about, you possibly may have somebody's name that's trademarked. But so when I changed the name and went to We Management Services, I had a different mindset of like, okay, as I started learning about business credit, I started learning that banks and lenders don't like credit or don't like dealing with credit companies. And I never wanted to box myself into just doing credit. And so that's why I didn't put credit in the new company name. Services mean I could actually do a multitude of things. I can buy companies. There's a lot of things that you can do under a management company. And so that was really my inspiration. And, the we is a part of my initials of my name. And so it just kind of stuck out, and like I say, I want to go with management and like I say, not box myself into just doing credit.
Yeah, you do have a point. Having like credit or other type of words in your business name, it will like
make a big difference.
Yeah, with the creditors, the banks and stuff. Like, yeah, that's a valid point. I'm glad you brought that up because that didn't cross my mind to ask you that. So you own it with that one for sure.
So you got it.
You got it.
So in regards to business credit, can you explain the difference between Paydex and DNB?
So DNB is the company that houses your Paydex score. And so the Paydex score through Dun & Bradstreet, which DNB stands for, is a credit repository that reports business credit information. Now, I often tell people, because a lot of people are going out there trying to build up their Paydex, and I tell people that you definitely want to set up to build your Paydex, but don't invest a bunch of time or money into trying to do so, because not every single bank even looks at your DNB. And so now typically when you're setting up your DNB, which stands for Dun & Bradstreet, you want to definitely make sure you go and apply and get what's called your DUNS number, DUNS number, DUNS number. Now, they will try to sell you on their credit builder program in order to get the DUNS number. You don't have to pay for that. Just some information that, I want to share with people, because they will try to sell you their credit builder program and say, hey, if you don't buy this, then your credit profile will be incomplete and creditors won't recognize you. And that's completely false. So you can go apply for the free DUNS number. You can build up your Paydex score organically. But yeah, your Paydex score is just one of the credit scoring models that is used for business credit profiles. And then, of course, you have Experian Business, Equifax. So, there's several different ones that are out there. Small Business Financial Exchange. You have PayNet, which is for auto loans. So it really just depends on what lender what type of lender you're trying to apply for and what bureau they're going to be utilizing.
All right. And to get that DUNS number, make sure you head over to dnb.com. That's the letters, 3 letters, DNB for Dun and Bradstreet. You know what I'm saying? Get that all taken care of.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Yeah. So what would you say 5 key elements of establishing business credit? What 5 elements would you list?
Man, so 5 elements. One is make sure your personal credit is good. If you have bad personal credit, it's going to be very difficult for a bank to loan you money. So 1, definitely make sure you got your personal credit intact. 2, you have to have an actual business, a business that's registered and up to date and that is active. I can't tell you guys how many times I've talked to individuals where they may have set up a business 3-4 years ago, and in their particular state, they didn't pay the renewal fees. So when they go to try to apply for a business credit card or open up a business bank account, they find out that their business is inactive. So 2, you want to definitely make sure that you have a business intact. Thirdly, you want to make sure that your company is bank compliant, meaning there are certain things and certain components that banks look for in order for you to, get approved for any type of credit products that they have. Fourth, make sure you file your taxes. And I know it's tax season right now, and I can't tell you guys how many people I see make this big mistake. As an entrepreneur, obviously, the money you make, you don't take taxes out. So typically, we can't assume it's all profit. Well, then at tax time, you have an accountant or a tax preparer who's going to try to get you the biggest tax refund. So they're going to write everything off. So let's say you made $100,000 for the year. They write off $90,000. Now your taxable, your income or your revenue for that year was $10,000. It's going to be very difficult to go to a bank and get approved for anything showing you only made 10 grand for the year. So make sure you file your taxes properly. I always recommend getting with a tax strategist, not just someone who files taxes, but an actual tax strategist. And then 5th, I always say banking relationships. Right now, especially, post-COVID and everything that happened, there was so much fraud that was committed that banks now want you to actually start establishing relationships with them. They have something called Know Your Customer. And that is where they want to establish that relationship to essentially get to know you. So I like to liken it to banks want to date you first before they want to actually do business with you. They want to see if you're worthy of their business. So them getting to know you as a customer, they want to see, are you going out there frivolously burning banks? Are you, getting a bunch of overdraft fees or whatever the case may be? So you definitely will definitely want to start getting relationships with banks, and something just as simple as going and opening up a business bank account. You don't have to have a ton of money flowing through there if that's not your main bank. They just want to establish those relationships. So those would probably be the 5, things that I would recommend someone right now who is, looking to position themselves for business credit.
So you think there's like a minimum amount of time you need to be with these banks with a business account before you can try to apply for any type of business credit card or business?
Some banks want you to be with them up to 90 days. Now, that's not the case for all banks, but some banks minimum 90 days.
How do you feel about making a business account with a credit union versus a regular bank?
I tell people if it's a bank and they have money to lend, I'm going to them. I don't care if it's a credit union. I don't care if it's a bank. I don't care if it's a big bank, if it's a small bank. If they have credit products that I know I could qualify for, I'm going to apply. Now, when it comes to certain type of lending, I do like credit unions because their interest rates are a little bit more competitive. And believe it or not, a lot of the bigger banks, a lot of their credit products, they're no longer offering. Like at one point, Wells Fargo was no longer doing auto loans. Some banks were no longer offering HELOCs, which is a home equity line of credit. So different banks have different things going on. Some banks, they're more stringent as far as their lending, their guidelines. So, but yeah, I'm a fan of banks, credit unions, anywhere where I can go and get some credit. I'm not, picking one or the other. I think they both serve their purpose. And as long as, you can have a good relationship with them, I say go for it, because I tell people you're going to have as you're growing as an entrepreneur, you're going to have multiple accounts anyway. I mean, I think I probably have about 15 bank accounts with 15 different banks. So, but that's just part of the game as you're growing, because different banks have different products that you could take advantage of for different reasons.
All right, for sure. So you mentioned like make sure your personal credit is together before you get business credit, and you also mentioned have a minimum score of 680. How
now closer to 700. Banks are getting a little more stringent as far as lending. So yeah, you want to be closer to that 700 plus actually.
All right. So with the new 2021 info, you'd recommend in the 700 area.
Definitely the 2021 info is that you want to be at that 700 plus.
All right, for sure. All right. What can we like compare and contrast like benefits of cash cards versus getting non-cash cards?
Oh yeah, I mean it's a big difference. So a cash card would be a credit card where you can go and swipe anywhere, a grocery store. You can pay for your services. You can pay for your marketing. You can buy Facebook ads, whatever. A non-cash card would be like a Home Depot card. I can only use it at Home Depot. A Staples card, I can only use it at Staples. And so a lot of these credit products that have you signing up where they say, no personal guarantor, meaning that you don't have to use your social, those mostly are non-cash cards. But now you have what are called fintech banks, which are like, financial banks that are more online, that do primarily online banking, where they are starting to come out with more and more products that are non-traditional type of lending, where they may not ask for your social security number, but they will verify like your banking information. They want to see, do you have transactions going through your bank account? Do you have money? Some of them, depending on what the limit is, it's a net 30 or a net 60. So for example, let's say you get a line of credit with a fintech bank or a digital bank that some people, may be familiar with that term, and they give you a line of credit for 10,000. Okay. Yeah. You may not have had to use your social, but let's say you get that $10,000 line of credit and you use 5,000 of it tomorrow. Well, because it's a net 30 account, within 30 days, you have to pay the full 5,000 back in full. So some of these fintech banks, you have to pay the amount back in full, or it's a net account, whether it's a net 10, net 15, net 30, net 60, or net 90. So those are some of the differences and the benefits. And then, of course, with the cash cards and non-cash, it just means you can actually pull the cash off the card versus a credit card where you can only use it for that retailer.
All right. And so with the cash cards, I know you had a live on Instagram with on Beyond the Clippers with Mode. So y'all mentioned like getting real estate with these cash cards. How's that possible?
So let's say you have, several credit cards, and over 5 credit cards, you have, $100,000. And I'm just throwing some numbers out there, $20,000 on each card. So let's say you find a property. So actually, this is actually how I bought my very first investment property 5 years ago. There was a property that, that was sent to me. It was $25,000. So I took some money off of a line of credit, used the line of credit money, and actually paid for the property cash. And so that's how you're able to buy a house using credit cards. And it's a strategy called creative financing. And going back to like I talked about at the top of the podcast, is that we're losing this economic, game because we lack the information. And that's a piece of information that we haven't been privileged to, which is how wealthy people have been playing forever. That's where the term Robert Kiyosaki, other people's money, OPM, came from. And when I talked about how his strategies changed my life, I remember hearing him talk about that. He said, and I'll share the story real quickly. He found a real estate investment property for about 18 grand in Waikiki, Hawaii. The down payment was about 2,500. He didn't have any cash, and he said, "Look, I can get the cash off my credit card." So he took $2,500 from his credit cards, put the down payment down. The bank financed the other 80%, and then he was making money from that real estate property. So essentially, it only cost him $2,500, and it wasn't even his money; it was the bank's money. So it gives us an entry point to be able to play a lot faster. Even let's take, the stock market is very popular right now. And so I have a lot of clients who have gotten a lot of capital that we've helped them get that money and dump it into the market. So the creative financing strategy using credit cards can be used pretty much to run and finance any type of business venture, any type of, wealth strategy or anything. We just have to have the right strategies and the proper information.
For sure. All facts.
Some good information for real.
Thank you.
I'm learning.
Go back and watch this. Go back and watch this tomorrow.
Appreciate that.
Days after that too, not just tomorrow.
All right.
You got it. Go ahead.
Nah, you got it. That's my
fault. So you talked about you invested in real estate. How did you initially get into real estate, and what was the motivation behind getting into real estate?
So I'll start with the motivation. So the motivation really came from, my parents were always investors. I didn't know at the time what they were doing, but yeah, they always owned investment properties. And then one of my grandfathers, he owned at one point 40, rentals in the city of Milwaukee. Again, I was so young, I didn't really understand how real estate was a wealth vehicle. And so as I've gotten older and I started to learn about real estate and hearing, 90% of most wealthy and successful people have real estate in their portfolio. So I started to take it a lot more serious, started learning about it. I was intimidated because I thought you had to have a ton of money, and I didn't have the right information. And as I started to learn, and then that's when I heard Robert Kiyosaki talk about that strategy using bank credit lines, it changed my entire viewpoint, because I have clients who literally don't even have a job who we've helped get lines of credit that have invested in real estate. And so it's one of the easiest entry points to start creating wealth, because home ownership is how you essentially build up your wealth, because you're going to build up equity. There's a ton of different reasonings, but that's where my kind of inspiration came from, and my influences, like I mentioned, with my parents and my grandparents.
All right, so those line of credits that they're using to get into real estate, is that like personal credit cards or business credit cards, or it could be either?
It can be either. I tell people that I think sometimes we get so caught up in saying, "Hey, I want business credit cards," and I always ask why. And most people can't answer the question. Now, I know why you would want or you should, but then I hit them with another question. I said, if you're walking down the street and there's a 50 and 100 on the floor, which one are you picking up? Most people say, the 100. I'm like, why not pick up both?
Yeah, I'm thinking both.
You can use personal credit and business credit. It's all the bank's money. In my first investment property, I use only personal credit cards. So again, it's really just about knowing the strategies on how to use the credit. So I don't care if it's personal credit, business credit, lines of credit, loans, personal loans. If it's bank money and I can use it and I have a vehicle to service the debt, I'm gonna use their money.
TBN, huh?
Always, for real.
TBN and OPM.
For sure.
Really.
So can you give us any more like important reasons of why they get into real estate?
The number one reason I'm going to say is that the biggest reason is it has a certain level of freedom, long term. Like I tell people, like when you're investing in real estate, especially from a buy and hold standpoint, and that's essentially where you buy a property and you rent it out, that's how you build a retirement fund. Imagine if you have, an investment property in every month you're making $300 a month. And let's say within 5 years, you're able to get 10 properties, which is extremely doable. That's $3,000 a month you're now collecting. Some people don't make $3,000 a month on their 9 to 5. And so imagine if, you're just doing this along the way, you're trucking and you're not trying to blow it out the water. And after 10, 15 years, pretty much your entire work career, which most people are working 40 years plus, because typically people can't retire now because of the lack of the benefits that's available out there. And taking that same scenario, you have an extra $300 net profit you're making every month, but now you have 50 properties, and so just understand that it's a way to really create a revenue stream, or as I like to call it, mailbox money. Now, let's say you don't blow it out the water and you stop at, let's just say 5 properties. Well, over time, as you're paying in those properties down, you're building what is called equity. So now you can actually borrow against those properties, even if all you did was bought your primary residency. So let's just say the house you live in, you purchased and you paid $100,000 for it. And then over the course of 5 to 10 years, it appreciates and now it's worth $250,000. Well, guess what? You can tap into that equity from the difference in what it's worth versus what you owe on it. And you can get up to 80% of that. And again, this is a strategy that the wealthy have been doing forever, which is how they use it. And not even just the wealthy, just other ethnicities. They've used this money to start businesses, to send their kids to college. And the thing about equity, when you pull that out, it's tax-free money. So imagine having a house with $300,000 of equity in there. You want to start a business for your family. You want to go invest in a franchise that may be $250,000. You can actually pull the equity out of your home. So building wealth through real estate, you now become your own bank. And if your property appreciates in value more, multiple times over the course of you owning it, you can pull out the equity multiple times. So it's just a bunch of reasons on why, real estate should be an option. Now, you're not going to get rich in real estate overnight. I often tell people that, because I get a lot of people say, man, Will, when I get my first house, I'm going to quit my job. And that's not what real estate is. Sorry about that. I got a call. That's what real estate is. Real estate is that long-term building your retirement fund type of play. And so, we have to start owning some stuff, and that's how we close the wealth gap through real estate. That's one of the many ways to do so.
All right. Where's the wisdom from Mr. Roundtree himself? So you have Roundtree University. You want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah. So it's an online platform that I created where I house a lot of different course information that I offer. And so it's actually a larger play that I'm working on. The Roundtree University was actually done very last minute when COVID first hit. And the reason I did that was because my first course that I made digitally was the 30-day do-it-yourself credit repair challenge. And for those who, been following me, I've been traveling the country doing workshops across the country for the past, about 4 years. Well, when COVID hit, nobody could travel. On top of that, we were all stuck in the house. So I said, you know what, let me put together a course. So I went to the office, actually shot it with my iPhone and shot 40 videos and created the Roundtree University to house the information. And so that's really how that came about. It was done really because of COVID, really. So, that's the start of the bigger play that we're working on when it comes to online information and digital courses.
Yeah, if you haven't tapped into that yet, make sure you tap in. There's some valuable information in there. If you're watching this and you can see the screen right now, you can see some of the things there are to offer here. I'm not going to hit the button and go in there because you got to pay for that. You know what I'm saying? But you can see just the gist of what you have there. You know what I'm saying? and it's a wealth of information out there. So make sure y'all tap into Roundtree University.
Thank you.
Yeah. Speaking of paying for something, Mr. Roundtree do offer a free service, as y'all can see on the bottom of the screen. If you head to wemanagementservices.com, you get a free discovery call with Mr. Roundtree. So make sure.
Well, to be with my team.
Yeah, from the team, not personally him, but
I would love to speak to everybody, but and that's why I do a lot of social media lives, so that way I do get a chance to connect and speak with everybody. But yeah, you can actually go to the website, book a free discovery call, fill out a small intake form that will give my team really a synopsis of what it is that you want to discuss, so that way we know what your end goal is, and that way we're going directly to what that pain point and then what it is you're trying to accomplish.
For sure. So, if you're watching it, you can see it on the screen right there. If you listen to the audio,
take advantage.
Already.
Definitely.
We like to share what our guests have going on, especially their website. We like to help promote what they have going on too.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Most definitely. So the real estate game, you can get that with the personal credit or the business credit. You just gotta know what you're doing out there. You can learn that on Roundtree University as well if you want to tap in with that. Make sure you subscribe to Mr. Roundtree's YouTube channel too. Right now he's at 200K subscribers. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and get him up to 250, 300.
Let's keep it going. Thank you.
For sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, has full-time CEO and Credit is King made a significant impact on your life?
Yeah. What's interesting is that, one of the things that I said I necessarily didn't want to box myself in, just being credit is king. Now people make that synonymous with me. I actually have it trademarked. And so I've seen a couple people using the title. My attorney been on pit bull status because she's ready to go after a couple people because of it. But yeah, it's definitely had a significant impact. My first book, which was Credit is King, which came out in 2016. The main reason I wrote that book really was because I have a friend who has a publishing company, and he said, "Well, you should write a book." And I was like, "Man, I don't know what to write about." And he said, "Man, just write it about credit, something you already know." So I actually wrote the book in 2 months, and I actually wrote it myself. Formatted it, put it out, has zero expectations, and I'm still in amazement the numbers that book does every single month. And so it's my first project. And the thing about books, and I tell every entrepreneur and every business owner, if you have a business, you have a brand, you should write a book, because one, that's going to establish instant credibility for you, and two, my book is my business card. If you get a business card, most people gonna throw it away. If I give you a book, you're not throwing that away, even if you never read the book. And so what I used to would do is I would when I would give the books out, when I would be at the airports or whatever, I would put a bookmark in there, give a book away. And, and I've actually got my book into some pretty prominent individuals' hands, and it actually ended up circulating back, and they reached out to me. And so that's why I tell people definitely writing that book. And then my second book, Full-Time CEO, The Shit They Don't Tell You, was really just a book about entrepreneurship. And I kind of tell my story about entrepreneurship and basically letting people know it's not easy. When you see people, with all of the success and the cars and the jewelry and the clothes and the planes and the trips, just know they worked for that. They just didn't wake up and now they're on a resort. They just didn't wake up and now they have a luxury car. Like, I tell people I have 17 years on this journey and I failed 70% of the time. But all you need is to have one thing to be successful at. And then I often say there's actually a formula to creating success, but it all boils down to information. And so a lot of the information I shared in that book, Full-Time CEO, is information that I've gotten personally from my mentors. It's not anything new I invented or came up with. I just put my own twist on it and telling a story that makes it relatable for people to be able to digest it.
For sure.
The shit they don't tell you. I just got that in, and then with that bundle, it's a ebook as well.
Yes.
And you got an audio book on there too. So like,
Yeah. Audio books for both books as well.
yeah, that's all. That's love right there. All right. You mentioned
go ahead.
when you talking about that stuff. You talking about that stock market, wasn't you?
Yeah, I was getting ready to get into the stock market a little bit. We had some crazy things happening.
Oh,
you know
man.
what I'm saying, recently in the stock market, especially like with the GameStop stocks, and then like cryptocurrency. If people interested in cryptocurrency, so just wanted to ask you a few questions about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, how do you feel about the current stock market situation?
Man, I tell people get in and I often share with people like once information hits the paper or the news, it's usually too late. You know, a lot of people are upset with the whole GameStop thing, but here's the thing: even if you would have bought GameStop stock the day it popped, you would have still been at the high end of it. And so understand, and that's where it goes back to learning and having access to information. You know, you want to try to get in on these things as early as possible. You know, I remember getting into, just the penny stocks with marijuana stocks back in 2009, because I knew that eventually they were going to legalize it, especially out here in Nevada. And so I'm a huge fan of the market. I actually, do a lot of option, trading. And so it really just boils down to information, and the information is out there. You know, they have an entire, I send this YouTube video out to everybody who asks me about option trading, because, I don't do a lot of talking about option trading because I'm not an expert, and I don't want people to think I'm trying to get in that lane to be an expert at that, but I do play the market. And so when people ask me about it, I usually just send them some videos that I've been able to learn from, some courses that I invested in to really learn about it. And just understand, like, in any type of investing, don't play with no type of money that you can't afford to lose. So if you can only afford to lose $300, start with $300. If you can only afford to lose $1,000, start with $1,000. And a very easy entry point is an app called Acorns, where you can actually invest in the market by rounding up your change from your purchases. So let's say you buy something for $1.50. They can actually round it up to the nearest dollar and take that additional 50 cents and put it into that Acorns account where you're investing in a bundle of stocks. Now, it's not going to make you a millionaire overnight, but compounded interest. And we have to stop thinking short term. See, a lot of people are looking for that quick hit in the stock market. No, it's a long-term play. And that's why we have to become more educated and just stop doing things because it's cool, or because, you see this person winning. Well, they didn't tell you that they probably been doing that for 15 years. They just now are starting to showcase it. And so, let's stop doing things and just jumping on the bandwagon, but really take time to learn the information first. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of the market.
For sure. Yeah, I don't know the correct pronunciation of it, but Dogecoin, Doggycoin, whatever you want to call it.
Doggycoin.
Are you getting into that?
Oh, I mean, I invest in a lot of crypto, man. Like a fun fact. So there was actually a crypto company that I was one of the founding board members of with Nipsey Hussle. And he and I were actually supposed to be doing business together. It was a company called FollowCoin. And I actually had a tremendous amount of stake in the company. I was actually one of their brand ambassadors. Nipsey came in as a brand ambassador and actually put some money behind it. And you can actually find some of the videos out there of him talking about it. And so I mean, I've been dabbling in the crypto space for a while. I have a good friend of mine, Chris Cole, who, is just a master at teaching people not only about crypto, but about mining, about stocks. And I want people to learn too. There's multiple ways to make money in all of these spaces, which is why we have to become educated. It's not just one way. Even with the marijuana industry, like, you don't just have to own a dispensary or a farm to make money. There's ways you can make money digitally, in apps and merchandise and different things. And so, that's why we have to continue to educate ourselves. So that way we just don't have a linear way of thinking and understand, like, look, okay, I may not be able to make money here, but kind of like the whole gold rush, everybody was rushing to get to California for the gold rush, not knowing, what, we need shovels and picks and axes. Well, guess what? I'll go and be the company that makes those, and I'll sell them to people who are going to dig for the gold. And so we have to start thinking, above and understand that it's multiple ways to make money in a particular industry.
Facts. You talking about the gold rush. Now they had the green rush, like when they started legalizing out west. It looks like it's coming from the west to the east. So there's some things they can do with this green rush. That's what I'd call it. Which started like in Colorado. Yeah. Everything like that.
Right.
Somebody said a smart man to find one way to make $1 million, but a wise man to find 1,000,000 ways to make $1.
100%. That compounded interest, man. Compounded interest. Yeah, I want to eat in all areas. Like I have a lot of things that I invest in, again, that I don't necessarily talk about because, again, I don't claim to be an expert, but there's so many different ways that you can make money these days. And, and you don't have to be an expert. And so, and you don't have to make millions of dollars in every single industry. Like I tell people right now, a good friend of mine, Tosin, has an affiliate marketing program where people can sign up for his program where he teaches you how to become an affiliate marketer for all of these companies who have products. You don't have to own any of the companies. So imagine if you're getting $100 check from 20 different companies every month. That's $2,000 a month, additionally, that you're not doing any actual manual labor for. So again, that goes back to that a wise man is going to find 1,000,000 ways to make $1. I want to make money in all areas. They say the easiest dollar to make is the one you don't have to work for. And so that's always been my mindset,
Yeah, that remind me of the Rich Dad Poor Dad. Instead of making the money, instead of working for the money, you letting the money work for you.
Man. I want to make sure my hands are soft. So I don't want to do a lot of manual work, man. So I'm going to always figure out ways to have my money working for itself,
All right. So what should we expect from Mr. Roundtree and or We Management Services in 2021?
So I'm actually working on a new program called my Full-Time CEO program, where we're going to teach people everything about becoming a full-time CEO. And when I say a full-time CEO, it starts with the mindset. It's just not about having a business and working for yourself. I mean, if you're on your 9 to 5 and you have a business and you have the mindset as your exit strategy on how to get out of that, and you're focused and you're dedicated and you're persistent, you're a full-time CEO. And so my long-term play of being a full-time CEO, which I also have trademarked, so I don't want nobody going out there trying to use it, is really, in layman's terms, fellas, to be the Netflix of entrepreneurship. Because again, a lot of the things as being an entrepreneur or a business owner, believe it or not, 95% of businesses don't know how to run business. They just know how to operate within their business. So when you first become an entrepreneur, you don't think about taxes. So I want to make sure I have a tax strategist. We don't think about contracts. So I want to have an attorney. We don't think about all of these different nuances that we need in order to actually grow a business. So that way we just not working a job for ourselves, because the only way you'll be able to exit your company to where now you can really solely be a business owner, where your hands aren't tied up and you have to do everything and you're working from sun up to sundown and you're screaming team no sleep and you don't have any time for anything, is you have to be able to actually have a business. And so that's what the full-time CEO is going to be. And we actually should be dropping that probably right before the end of the first quarter. I already shot all of the content, and it's something that I'm really looking forward to. This has always been kind of one of my end goals. The credit was really just to catch people's attention and understand that the credit is a play to set you up for success in business, because in order to run a company and be able to, have people in different roles so you can grow and scale as a business, is you need some capital. You need marketing. A lot of us don't understand marketing. So I have a marketing team that's going to teach you, and so I try to put all of these different things in place that gives us the information so we can actually run a legitimate business. And so that's what my entire focus is going to be 2021. I also have a couple other things that I can't let out the bag yet, but there's a couple big partnerships that I'll be announcing throughout the year that I'm extremely excited about, and I work very hard to curate these relationships. And so yeah, man, I'm definitely looking forward to 2021.
Oh.
Gonna be a great one for sure, like we say on 1409. You mentioned marketing. I see your Facebook ads come up, and we already following you. So like, how they still coming up? I thought it's like when you don't follow the person.
I don't know. My team handles that, man. But this is the thing. Like, as I sat down with my team, I said, you know what? We got to flood the market. And as I thought about that, it reminded me, Lil Wayne became the greatest alive, not because he's necessarily the greatest rapper alive, but because he put out more content than everybody. And so my thing is to put out more content. So any product that we offer, I want you to see my ads so many times that you're going to do one or two things. One, if you need whatever it is we have to offer, you'll reach out to us. Or two, you're just going to block my ads or block me. And that just means you did us a favor because you weren't going to spend money with us anyway. And so my line of thinking is flood the marketplace with the content, because they say if you build it, people will come. And I want to be at the top of people's mind for whatever it is that we offer. So if they need it, they will reach out to us.
So Mr. Roundtree, how many times have you been on a podcast or had interviews?
Oh man, it's probably been at least in the past 2 years, probably 50 something podcasts.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's up there for sure. Then.
Yeah.
I have a lot of fun with podcasts because I don't have to do all of the thinking. You guys can ask me the questions, and so I can just answer.
All right. So what would you say your favorite episode of 1409 podcast is?
So Taria Avant, who you guys had on, good friend of mine, and her company actually published my second book, Full-Time CEO. And so I love her. She's a wealth of information, and she's really helping a lot of Black authors or just people, period. But I know she works a lot, in our community and really giving them that confidence and a platform to be able to launch their book and start their book. So, that was my favorite, and I'm a huge fan of hers.
Yeah, when you mentioned the book and you mentioned like I don't have anything to write about, it's like you can write about credit. That made me think about Taria, because it sounded like something she would have been involved in. But yeah, I knew you was tapped in with her.
Yeah, second book we did work together on. Yeah.
Yeah, and I watched she interviewed you. It's on YouTube too. I watched that last night, and there's some dope content on there too.
Definitely.
All right. Urban CEO, full-time CEO.
Yeah. Yeah, I told her we have to do a collab one of these days or something. So.
Oh, really? So who would you like to see on 1409 in the near future?
Man, I think you guys, I have a good friend out of Cleveland, Ohio, Beyond Win. I mean, I could give you guys a couple people. A good friend of mine and my brother, who were actually going into business together. We actually just acquired, and I have a company now in Sierra Leone in Africa, and we own a gold mine that we've invested in. And so that's an industry that we have not tapped into, the precious gold and mineral space. And, he's one of the only Black gold exporters in the entire United States. Not a person. He's not a jeweler. He's a gold broker, which means he gets the gold, take it to the refinery. The refinery sell it to the actual vendors, and the vendors sell it to the stores. And so just the information that I've learned about gold and diamonds and all of that, you definitely got to have my brother T Pro on. Previously was played in the NFL and learned about gold because somebody had sold him a bunch of fake diamonds, which, you'd be surprised. 60% of the diamonds out here are artificially made. And so I just learned so much about that industry. And so I definitely recommend you guys reach out to him, or at least that's what I would love to see on here, because I think that's a space that we don't know enough of.
Yeah, that's definitely
the jury.
That's their issue. So he's selling the gold by the kilo. He's selling it by the necklace.
Kilo. We don't buy it by the ounce or gram.
Yeah,
we were on the phone the other night talking about kilos, and somebody heard me. They thought we was talking about something else. We're talking about gold. So
I actually had the pleasure of holding a kilo of gold. It's like so dense. Like it takes up a small amount of space, but it's like
it's really dense. And in its raw form, it looked like dust. Yeah. Like I'm telling you, like when I've seen the process of when the villagers go out and they get the gold and they're fermenting it, I mean, it'll blow you away, man. It'll blow you away.
Yeah, I learned a little bit about gold spending time in other parts of the world, you know what I'm saying? And they got that 22 karat, high carat gold over there. So that when I came back over here, I didn't even want none of 10 karat or none of that anymore after seeing that gold over there.
The higher the carat, the softer it is.
Yeah, for sure.
It depends on what you're looking for. So yeah. So I mean, I do like 10 karat gold. I have a gold rope that's 10 karat, but that's because the piece that Tony made for me is pretty heavy. So depending on how heavy your jewelry is, you definitely want to have, a lower carat because it's more solid. So, but yeah, I mean, and again, that's an industry that, we need to learn more about that way too. So people don't take advantage of you. Like there's big box jewelry stores that all of their diamonds in there are lab diamonds, which are artificially made. Mm-hmm. Like people will go and spend their last amount of money buying diamonds from them for, their significant other, and all of these things, not knowing that those diamonds have zero value outside of just that store. And, another thing I learned, diamonds have the most artificial markup because there's really no true value. We've created the value. The hip hop culture has created the value. Mainstream media has created the value of diamonds. And so, yeah, man, it's just a ton of information that I've learned.
Yeah, we definitely interested in having him, so we're gonna get that information for you
for you guys. Yeah, he's actually in Africa right now, so yeah, that'll be dope. I'll actually be going out there in April, so we're going to be shooting a lot of content. I'm actually working on getting my dual citizenship out there because I'll be out there quite a bit. So I'm excited because I've never been to Sierra Leone.
Yeah, I'd like to get out there as well.
Definitely.
All right, Mr. GualaMeetsWorld, you got that question of the day?
Yeah, man. I wouldn't feel right without asking this question, man. We got Mr. Will Roundtree here, credit educator, what I'm saying, teaching everybody about financial literacy. So the question of today is, how do we feel about minimum wage going to $15 an hour if this bill passes?
I'm going to say that is definitely a benefit for those who are in the working force. But I often too will say that, if we can figure out ways to also have other incomes coming in, because yeah, $15 sounds like a lot, but the way inflation is set up, I mean, it's still going to be difficult for a lot of households and families. I can remember when I first started making, $20 an hour when I was, my first job that I said that shut down when I was in Milwaukee. And I found out that $20 an hour, it's hard to live on that. And I was single with no kids at the time. And so I'm definitely a fan of the minimum wage increasing, but I often too, and that's why I educate so much about entrepreneurship, not so you can quit your job, but it's okay to work your 9 to 5 and have a business, that's making you residual income. So whether it's real estate, whether you have other investments, whether it's in the stock market, I mean, I have clients who have their jobs and they may have an extra vehicle around the house. And I showed them how to rent that vehicle out. So now that vehicle is making them money to pay the car note, to pay some extra bills in the house. So so I'm definitely a fan of, the potential bill that's on the table. But, I'm one to always say, I want to definitely challenge our people for us to continue to think bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, I say since it's going up, I feel like everyone else wage to go up just as in a proportionate manner to, let's say the minimum wage is like $7.25 now and it's going up to $15. So whatever percent increase that is, the other wages should increase like that if they want an hourly pay. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. I mean, even think about this. Let's say you have two people, two income household in Nevada, in Las Vegas in particular. That's $30 an hour. The average median home purchase price in Nevada is $250,000. That's like the minimum purchase price. The average is actually about $350. So $15 an hour isn't going to get you in position to buy a house, you know. And so just understanding like it's good on the front end, but typically every time we see minimum wage go up, what else can increase? Gas, milk, water. I mean, inflation. And so, I mean, a gallon of water is more than a gallon of gas. Think about that. I went to the gas station the other day before I went to the gym, bought a gallon of water. It was $5. A gallon of gas is for the premium is $3.
That must be the alkaline water.
Yeah, definitely alkaline. But just understand, like inflation always go up when they increase the minimum wage, and that's the part that sucks because I know it's a lot of families that could benefit from that increase in that bill passing, but everything usually it's a cause and effect with everything, and so I just hate that that the effect of minimum wage increasing that typically inflation usually is right behind it in some form or fashion.
Thanks. Yeah, I had this conversation earlier, and I said pretty much along the same thing you said. Like it looks good and it sounds good, but don't fixate on it. Just what I'm saying, thinking that inflation is not going to happen.
Real
And
talk.
I use some of the same examples, like gas gonna go up, milk. You know what I'm saying? Just like certain things is gonna go up. As I said, the price of living is gonna go up because minimum wage is going up.
Plane tickets.
So everything. I mean, did you know most insurance companies raise their rates every single year? Like in most states, auto insurance is mandatory. So it's like, so I like how you mentioned, like we can't get fixated on just it's $15 an hour. Let's figure out how to make $15 a minute, and create these other avenues of generating income.
Facts. All right, good question of the day as usual. You know what I'm saying? All right, next we get into that. This or that.
Yeah, I thought you was gonna hit me with like, what's the square root of 97 or something? I'm like,
nah. Nah, we try to tap into the intellect a little bit with the question of the day.
Man, so
all right, damn, I had one. Oh yeah, OPM or TBM?
TBM, that's the black version. So I'm gonna go with that one, the bank's money.
All right. I know you do a little fitness, so I'm gonna say chest day or leg day.
Man, leg day, it's hard to walk after leg.
You can't skip leg day though,
But I'm saying I'll do both. I can't just pick up the 100. I'm gonna pick up the 100 and the 50. So legs and the chest. I want to be able to wear shorts above my knees, so I gotta work my legs up.
Yeah.
So
all right, weights or cardio?
I hate cardio, man. So I'd rather do weight training. Man, cardio is just that you got to be built different mentally for cardio.
I think everybody hate cardio.
For real.
I had a homeboy that said he wanted to get back in shape, and I was like, man, the best way to get back in shape is just like do cardio. Like you got to do cardio.
You have to, but you can actually walking actually burns more calories than running. So, I often tell people, especially when you're first getting back in the gym, just start with walking, even if it's 15 minutes a day on a treadmill uphill. It doesn't have to be a fast pace, and you start to build that resistance and getting your body acclimated to it. So, you don't have to go in the gym getting all brolic the first day because mentally
you're gonna be sore as hell.
You're gonna be sore, and you may not go back. So, take baby steps with it. Absolutely.
But technically, how they calculate work, what I'm saying? If you walk for 15 minutes or you run for 15 minutes, you're technically doing the same amount of work. which is
Real
crazy.
talk. Yeah.
Because you would think like running, you're doing more work, but if you walk for 15 minutes versus running, you're doing the same amount of work.
Yeah. And make sure that you're eating right too, or at least decent. Like you can't go in the gym, work out for an hour, and then come home and eat like crap. Now you can eat within moderation. Like you don't have to eat like a bird and just nibble on rice. Like you don't have to do all that, but just eat within moderation.
Yeah, don't be splurging on the pralines and cream, ice cream. Even though it's good.
Hey,
Right,
pralines and cream. What's the other ice cream everybody like?
Butter pecan.
Yeah, butter pecan. There you go. Pralines or butter pecan.
I'm not an ice cream fan. My hardest thing to stay away from sometimes is French fries. Oh man, some good crispy French fries. That's like the devil, man.
So you gotta take your French fries and dip them in ice cream.
Oh,
you ever did that? You ever tried that?
I'll be sick as hell after that.
Nah, hey, try it. I was like that. Somebody told me that, and I tried it. It's actually pretty good.
Almond milk ice cream or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of ice cream though.
All right, so let me see with fries. I would say McDonald's because I can't choose that. I say
Rallies, Checkers.
Checkers got good fries. Yeah.
Bojangles.
See, Bojangles on the West Coast. When I go to Atlanta, I've eaten there before. I had one of their cinnamon buns. That was pretty good. So
yeah, I don't eat neither one of them. So I gave that up around the same time.
Yeah.
So dairy milk or almond milk? You mentioned almond milk earlier.
Yeah, I don't drink milk. I haven't drank milk in years. So yeah, usually it's a almond milk or a cashew milk or something. Even when I make my protein shakes, it's usually almond milk or cashew milk.
Yeah, it's my preference too. I put it in the cereal and everything. Almond milk. I never had the cashew milk though. That
cashew milk is actually pretty good.
That sounds top notch right there.
I got into actually like making my own almond milk.
Yeah, it's actually better. Now be careful too with almond milk because certain brands have soy in it. So you want to make sure you eat the ingredients and just make sure it's pure almond milk and not, if it's stuff on there you can't pronounce, it's probably soy in there. Yeah. So
all right. I don't think I have any more, y'all. Y'all got any more?
Nah.
You had any, Mr. Roundtree?
No, man. I had a good time. It was fun, man. And I was, how like the first day of school, you got your outfit laid out. Like I had got my mind right. I had to make sure I had my shop ready. So, looking forward to the live and podcast today. Thank you guys.
For sure. So go ahead and plug anything you want to plug right now. It's the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So biggest thing, I want people to go to my website right now, We Management Services, and book that free discovery call. So whether you're trying to get information on how to improve your credit, business credit, how to get some capital, starting a business, growing your business, marketing services, please make sure you do so. You can also go and follow me on social media across all platforms at Mr. Will Roundtree. Typically I go live often giving away some information. And if you don't get the information, hopefully I inspire you just, to think differently, because I do talk and touch a lot just on about mindset, and definitely be looking forward to coming to a city near you. I have a series called Cocktails and Credit, where I actually go to different cities and we go into a lounge and I try to not make it so formal and stuffy, and so we have a couple of adult beverages and we're going to educate you on some credit and business and real estate and all of that stuff. So, but more importantly, everybody go to We Management Services, book your free discovery call. My team is in the office on Saturdays sometimes. I want everybody to go there for me. And again, man, I appreciate you guys. Had an incredible time. Fan of the show. And, and I just appreciate, and I'm extremely humbled to be on here with the two legends. So thank you guys.
We appreciate you. We appreciate a legend coming on to join us for sure.
Hey, I'm still a work in progress, man.
Living legend.
Appreciate that.
You can find 1409 Podcast. We on Nobody Grinds Like Us Network. Always Press Record TV. You know what I'm saying? Download those apps. Download Always Press Record on your Fire Stick or your Roku. You know what I'm saying? Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you listen to this right now and you hear me saying it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, 1409 Podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Follow the Instagram, 1409 Podcast, and you can follow me at 843 Ambassador on Instagram.
Yeah, yo, once again, man, don't forget to book with Spa Danny up until the 14th of February. $10 off any 90-minute service if you're in the area. She also does traveling services for a small fee. You know where you can follow me on IG at GualaMeetsWorld.
Yeah, make sure you check out GualaMeetsWorld music as well. Subscribe to his YouTube channel, GualaMeetsWorld TV. Scrooge video out now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, it's the 1409 Podcast, and we out.
Peace.
Peace.